All right, welcome everyone to week 7 of the Discord progression series. Appreciate your continued participation. Let's get into the quicker video this week. A few topics to cover. First, we're going to take a look at the standings after a pretty exciting week of matches. We're going to quickly go over the wildcard distribution that you all will receive this week, and we're going to go through these set reviews, which I think you will find are a bit briefer in the past. Be sure to use the timestamps below, and let's get into it. After 6 weeks of completed play, here are your standings for the season thus far. We've got Mitch at the top, handily pulling away after a decisive victory over Ash last week. Ooh, Ash is going to rue those couple misplays that could have pole vaulted him to the top of the standings. As we head down, though, we're seeing some nice packs prevail, with the big group at 7 and 5, 5 and 7, and then at the bottom, coming off a 2-0 week, Will with 9 L's adds a couple W's to the list, pulling up to 3 and 9, and a nice week from Liam too to join that pack at 5 and 7. This week we see our second wildcard distribution, and I was quite happy with how it went at the first pass. This week you'll receive the complete set of 5 commons, 2 rares, 2 super rares, 1 ultra rare, and 1 secret rare. Notably, we do have 2 uncraftable cards, those being Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, and Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End. No additional uncraftables to add this week for these sets. We'll take a double check next week to ensure those sets don't have any either, but for now it's just those 2 killer cards from Invasion of Chaos that we need to avoid. Otherwise, go crazy, and I hope you're able to build some fun decks. Alright, here we go. Into the set reviews then for Rise of Destiny and Soul of the Duelist. 2 sets that are relatively underwhelming compared to last week, but with a couple of cards in there that you might like to pick up. First, with Rise of Destiny, we've got the rise of a few new archetypes, those being Horus, Armed Dragon, and Mystic Swordsman, all of which rely on the level mechanic, where the little one goes into the middle one, and then the middle one goes into the big one. I'm not going to highlight any of these cards individually. The Mystic Swordsman focus on destroying face-down cards. Horus, I believe, allows you to negate spell activation so long as the card is face up on the field, and Armed Dragon are cool dragon boys that will get support down the road. These cards are powerful if you pull complete sets of them. However, if you end up with a significant gap for one of the levels such that you can't go ahead and scale into, say, Horus level 6 because you didn't pull 4, you'll likely need to spend a wild card to go ahead and be able to leverage the strategy. So not going to walk through those individually. I encourage you to take a quick look at them if you find them interesting. Otherwise, let's move on to the individual power cards, which for this set, there are not very many. The first being Mobius the Frost Monarch, a 6-star water aqua. With the effect, when this card is tribute summoned, you can target up to 2 spell and trap cards on the field, destroy those targets. Now, this is the second Monarch we've seen after Zborg last week. Eventually, these will be an archetype in and of themselves, but this is just a generically power card, right? A single tribute, 2400 attack, go ahead and pop 2 spell and traps. Really good, especially for those of you who were burned by the burn decks last week, and just a generically powerful card. We go then to what is really more of a meme card, I would say, but it is kind of fun, that being Mind Crush. Mind Crush reads, as a trap card, declare 1 card name. If that card is in your opponent's hand, they must discard all copies of it. Otherwise, you discard 1 random card. So here we have a little skill expression for those of you looking to have the soul read, or perhaps you've just watched your opponent use Witch to grab Jinzo and you need to simply stop that summon. Mind Crush can be a good way around it, though if I'm being candid, it's not a very strong card. It can be kind of a fun card, though that drawback, if you whiff, is pretty bad. That's all for Rise of Destiny. Let's get in then to Soul of the Duelist, where we see a few archetypes again that I think are overall underwhelming. They'll get support in the future, but right now are not particularly strong, except for Moki Moki, which is really funny. Moki Moki are some cute little marshmallow guys that in and of themselves are not very strong. They have a fusion where you can blend 3 of them into the Moki Moki King, which lets you summon them all back out after you fuse with them. But the important part is there's a spell card that lets you, if 1 Moki Moki has died, give the remainder 3000 attack. So, you get the king out with polymerization, you resummon the other 3 that were in your deck, you crash one of the little guys into an opponent's monster, it dies, the other 3 guys get 3000 attack, you get over 1, hopefully dealing 2000 damage, and then hit directly to face 3000 each of the others. This is not good. I'm not going to pretend it is. There are some support cards in here to take a look at, but it is kind of funny. The other thing we see here is a bit of a critical mass for the first time of machine cards. For those of you who pulled limiter removal back in the day, it's time to double check those lists and double check those card sets, because all of a sudden machines are pretty good. Machine duplication, a card we'll take a look at in the set, allows you to kind of generate advantage based on those that you already have on the field, and there's some synergies generally. More importantly, though, picking them up this week is important in advance of the eventual deployment of the Cyber Dragons, which is an archetype that'll come out down the road, but synergizes quite well with many of these machine cards. So worth picking up. Probably not something you're playing this week, but could be good for the future. And then the last one I have listed here, I have with a question mark, because this is not good, but it is maybe funny. We'll take a look at one of the cards in the Harpy archetype, but Harpies get kind of their second pass at support. Y'all will remember from our very first set, Elegant Egotist and Harpy Lady being kind of the baseline support with Harpy Lady's sisters. If you could go ahead and special summon that out, that could maybe be a powerful play. We see a bit more support here with the first truly good card in Harpy's Hunting Ground that we'll take a look in a sec, but there are a number of the other Harpies printed, Harpy Lady 1, 2, and 3, which would be really cool, except they all are always treated as Harpy Lady. So you can only add effectively 3 of all of them to the deck. So you can have, one Harpy Lady 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, but you can't have multiples. So no good way to get to a critical mass quite yet, but Harpy Lady Hunting Ground is quite good. There's another spell that gives them a bit of a buff to their attack that is all right. Probably not good now, but just calling it out because eventually Harpies might be something to revisit if you have decent pulls in this set. The first one-off power card that I want to take a look at is yet another Monarch, this time Thestalos, the Firestorm Monarch. I would say not as strong as Mobius overall, but probably a little bit more troll. So same stat line again, 6-star, this time Fire Pyro, the 2400 attack and 1000 defense, with the effect, if this card is tribute summoned, discard one random card from your opponent's hand. Then if it was a monster card, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original level times 100. So that second effect's pretty irrelevant, right? On average, you're getting like 400 damage out of that, and that assumes you hit a monster card in the first place, which may well be unlikely. Now, the chance that you mega high roll, hit that Chaos Emperor Dragon or BLS out of your opponent's hand is a great meme. I don't think Thestalos is that strong, but it's another Monarch building toward this package of them with Zaborg and Mobius. And I do think it's somewhat strong, and if you had fire synergies going such that you got a little bit more out of either the fire attribute or the pyro tag, I think it could make its way into some decks, if not this week, then in the future. Next card is Back to Square One. This is another card that probably in previous sets I would not have highlighted, but given the low power level of these sets, I am going to go ahead and highlight it. This card is discard one card, then target a monster on the field and place that target on the top of the deck. This is kind of jointly powerful because not only is it removal, but you also essentially brick your opponent's next draw, or you at least know what it is. I'm not suggesting that this is game breaking, but in a format that is low on super efficient removal, right? This is just another option that has some upside, some downside. Obviously, with the introduction of the Chaos package, discarding cards is better than it was in the past. Looking at you Thunder Dragon players out there. But this card's interesting, just a consideration for the week. Next one is Machine Duplication. This is what I mentioned earlier, but it reads, target one machine monster you control with 500 or less attack. Special summon up to 2 monsters from your deck with the same name as that face-up monster. This is a great way to get bodies on the field, which we will eventually care about. And in the interim, if you have machine synergies going, you can maybe snowball out of control. I'm not sure that the power level is there this week. It's not there right now, but this is a card you would love to pick 1 or 2 up of in your opening. Whether it's craftable, that might be asking a lot. But if you pick a couple up, you're going to be happy that you did as we progress forward. Not for this week, but for the future. All right, the card I mentioned the most during my Harpy kind of brief walkthrough is Harpy's Hunting Ground, and this card is really good. So we have a field spell here. All winged beast monsters gain 200 attack and defense, and if any Harpy Lady or Harpy Lady's sister is normal or special summoned, the player who conducted the summon targets one spell up trap on the field and destroys that target. So this is great, right? It turns your normal summon of each Harpy into a pop, which is in and of itself pretty good. If you consider that special summoning these will only get better, right? All of a sudden you're popping 2-3 back row, and given that it's on summon and not many of our traps and spells are chainable to summons, you're not going to see that same pain that you might have with generically targeting a trap with Dust Tornado or something like that. It's not broken, but it's really the best Harpy card there is, and it's the baseline for the deck that will someday arise as Harpies get more support. Next card here then is Divine Wrath. I highlight this one just because monster effect negation is so important in a world where CED specifically exists. Divine Wrath reads, when a monster effect is activated, discard one card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy the monster, right? So play this out in your head. Opponent summons CED, they banish Light in the Dark. Summon them, they go ahead and declare effect on summon. You chain Divine Wrath, negating that effect, and you remove the CED from the field. So the nice thing is, even if your opponent dodges the Divine Wrath destruction by banishing them out with a trap card that can do that temporarily to the end phase, you're still going to get the negation such that the larger effect doesn't go off. So really quite good. A good one to tag in. Pretty impressive card. I think it's something that just we can't do right now. Monster effect negation is not frequently available. So worth picking up. I think better than it reads.